Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Future War.
Ooh.
Last night the blaze of the Future War was all I saw on Channel 4. Are you familiar with that song?
No.
That's the Smiths.
Oh, that explains why.
Do you like the Smiths, Aaron?
I'm not.
Are they? Do they fall into the infamous category?
Listen, you're not gonna get me lassoed in this early. I don't know enough about the Smiths to make a comment. College music. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So, Aaron, have you ever thought about? Have you ever thought? This game is all about time travel.
Yeah.
Would you rather travel, if you're given the choice, you can only choose one, would you rather travel into the past or the future?
Well, if you asked me earlier, I'd say the future, but now I'm thinking I need to go back to the past about 7 hours.
You can't change anything. You can't change anything.
Well, gosh. The one thing about going back to the past, you know what you're getting. Okay?
True.
I want to go see Houdini. Bam. There's Houdini. I want to go back and watch X defeat Y in battle. Okay? In the future, it's a mixed bag. So if you say, I'm going to go 20 years in the future, well, there could be a massive nuclear war or birdemic or whatever kills everybody. Then nothing's going on, so you get screwed. So it's a sort of a chance. But I'm going to go ahead and take the chance. I think I would go to the future.
You would go? I would not, because if I knew what was in the future and it was bad, and I came back to the present, it would be real hard to go on living.
Well, not really. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Let's say you go 20 years in the future, world's over. Okay, so you come back. Now, and you're how old are you now, bud? About
37.
37. Okay, so that's still pretty. You'd be a younger-ish man when the world ended, right? You just go absolutely insane.
And just buy all those pinball machines.
Just go no. You just go crazy. You spend all your money and go out and get a bunch of loans. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're playing with house money. So for the last 20 years of your life, you could live like you've got 100 years to live. Just going crazy.
That's a good point. I never thought of that.
Now, what you don't know is when the death started. So, or how it happened. Because
Right.
what if the world was engulfed in a real painful death? And then there was mass food riots and stuff, and then you're like, so
I got all these pinball machines in my basement.
there could be a run on those. You'll be eating them at the end. That's a bummer.
that gumball machine in Twilight Zone.
Just licking the inside glass. Horrible.
So, speaking of the past and the future, our man Dreamcatcher, our word on the street, our resident journalist, he has been back.
He's back again.
He's reporting on quite an unusual game this week, Aaron.
Well, let's talk about Doink. Donk. It's not Doink.
Third time's the charm.
He's talking about a game. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I've never played Donk. Donk is a duck-based game on the CD32. And once again, if I had a nickel for every time I said I've never played X, but Dreamcatcher said Y, I would be a millionaire.
It's funny you call it a duck-based game. I wonder if that's how Lemon categorizes it. Platformer, duck-based.
Duck-based game. It's funny how ducks get a lot of play on the old platformers and whatnot. Now, according to DK here, as we talked about this, when Amiga Power reviewed Donk, it was formerly known as Dong. We had a long discussion on this. Well, it was kind of stupidly long about Dong, the name of the game being Dong. What do you think is more marketable, Dong or Donk?
Oh, Donk. You want a real hard consonant at the end of your titles.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you learn that at?
That's just marketing.
It is? But I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Can you give me some examples of that?
Yeah. Like
bonk?
Facebook.
Facebook? Okay.
Lyft.
What about something like Instagram? That's not very hard.
No, you don't always.
You're sort of making that up. Or Twitter. That doesn't have a hard thing at the end.
Well, sometimes you want a soft thing.
What about Microsoft? Is that...
It gets you both ways. Both. Yeah, that's the ultimate. That's why they're the most valuable company in the world.
Personally, I'd go with Donk, but Dong is more funny for the obvious reasons. This is a game, of course, like I said, it's some kind of crazy samurai duck game. I know this is getting a lot of attention this week, and also it's It's the usual super in-depth Dreamcatcher article. It's crazy in-depth. So if you're in a dong or donk, I guess I could have probably said it another way, but if you're in a donk, go check this out.
What if you're into doink?
If you're in a doink or the mini dinks that came with it, those are the little doinks, then go watch 1990s WWF, which you'll be seeing a lot of doink.
Okay.
By the way, just a little tidbit, Doink was actually a very accomplished wrestler from Oregon named Matt Bourne, the original Doink. And
why did he agree to become such a lame clown?
Well, here's what happens. You're an unemployed Oregonian wrestler, and some guy's like, hey, if you'll put on this outfit and act like an idiot, I'll give you a dump truck full of money. And 2 seconds later, he was putting on the makeup and the outfit and going, hoo! And that's why. How much money would it take for you to humiliate yourself on national TV on a weekly basis?
I'd take a quarter of a dump truck full of money.
Really?
Yeah.
So your price is low.
I come cheap.
Yeah, I've heard that.
This week on ARG Presents, Aaron, you and Brent, this is probably one of my favorite episodes of all time. You do electronic board games.
You're kidding me. This is one of your favorite episodes of all time?
I loved this episode. Very rarely do I get fired up to play any of the games that you talk about.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm like, well, I guess I just...
Thank you for that ringing endorsement, Bo.
But this, I was like, man, that D&D game, it just sounds awesome. Like, I never watched the video. I only listened to the audio. And just hearing you describe it, I was like, boy, that sounds really cool.
That was Brent describing that one.
And Dark Tower,
yeah.
Dark Tower, like, I'd never heard of it before. I'd never heard of Dark Tower, and it just sounded rad. And like the story about how it left the market, rapidly was fascinating.
You never heard of Dark Tower?
No.
I thought everyone knew about this one.
No, I never heard of it. I thought my electronic board game experience comes from those VHS board games, which I don't know if you count those or not.
Yeah.
And the one with actually, no, that's not even electronic. What was the game that had the big boulder that would roll down? Or some, I don't know.
That's newer, isn't it? The one we
It was
played
from the 90s.
Yeah, I don't know. You got me.
But anyway, both of these games I was not familiar with, and I want to play both. Unfortunately, they're both, I guess, expensive and hard to find complete now.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was worried about this episode of how it would be received because it is outside of the video game realm. But like I said, both these, especially Dark Tower, reminds me an awful lot of Quest for the Rings, which we played. I mean, that's essentially a board game with a computer element, which is what is a... we were just lucky to have actually owned both these games back in the day. Mom and Dad must have mortgaged a farm. I don't know how we got it, but and Dark Tower was not cheap even when it was released. But it was a lot of fun to go back and look at them. Gosh, it made me want to play Dark Tower again. The Electronic Dungeons & Dragons computer game was a mixed bag. I mean, it did what it did well, but like I said, I remember not being happy with it just because I didn't think it portrayed D&D you really didn't get a D&D feel for it. It was more of its own sort of game, and they just kind of slapped the thing on there. But I mean, it was a beautiful looking game.
Yeah.
They both were. If you want to play these things now, I mean, you can get the D&D game for, like, I think Brent said $50-$60, but you're going to pay hundreds of dollars for Dark Tower, and to get a complete one, you're really going to be, buying the farm. I was afraid this one would get too boring because we kind of go in depth to try to talk about how the game's played. So.
I didn't feel that way at all.
Well,
I'll take 1,000 of these over another Dreamcast episode any day.
Listen, Dreamcast 2 is coming, brother. I should say this week, it's funny, we spun, I don't know if you've gotten to the part where we actually picked next week's game. We spun the wheel, and the deal we made was chat choice. And of course, we usually do it with the people in the chat room. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a huge turnout this week. So there were people in there, and so we just said, listen, the first decent idea we see, bam, and somebody suggested games about war, which is pretty broad.
True.
And so Brent picked for this week, for the upcoming episode, which will be taping Sunday. Brent picked Civilization on the N-Gage, which I know.
Wow.
I don't know where he got that one, and so I picked Beachhead 2 for the C64.
Electric Boogaloo?
Now, I picked Beachhead 2 because one time somebody showed it to me back when I was a long time ago, and I remember thinking, man, that's pretty cool. And it's sort of warlike. There's guys, it's shooting and soldiers and parachuting in and, machine guns and stuff. So I picked that one. But Brent, it comes to find out there is no emulation for the N-Gage 2.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard that on Discord.
And so N-Gage, so Brent ended up having to switch platforms for his game. But Civilization, we actually covered that a long time ago on our show, and of course we both are big fans of that game.
Yeah.
So that's a good choice for him. But I'm re-experiencing Beachhead with 2019, Aaron. And it's quite eye-opening because 1990s Aaron was, or maybe even 1980s Aaron was like, holy smokes. I remember I played it when it came out. So, I mean, it was a long time ago. It's one of the few things I played on 64 that I remember. So, we'll be looking at those this week.
I was going to say, did you ever play any of those Avalon Hill war games, those tabletop games?
I did. And they're I mean, not much. I don't think I ever completed one. They're super advanced and they're super long.
Yeah.
I mean, you would play those things. There's a running joke if you're. There's a comic strip called Knights of the Dinner Table. It's about these role-playing guys, and there's a running joke that these two guys have been playing a war game, and it's been set up in the basement for years. And that seems appropriate. 'Cause, I mean, they just go on forever, you know. So I don't have that kind of time. Even back then, I was just like, this is not keeping my attention.
No.
So, there you go. But yeah, it was fun. Board games are interesting, and like I said, but it's good to get back to the video game side of things this week.
Well, it's good to get back on board the gamble train, Aaron. You know, the gamble train has been rolling through the woods of the Amiga news landscape, and it's finally coming to a clearing, and that clearing is this show. We're going to talk about all the latest Amiga news.
This is the most elaborate intro for the news I've ever heard.
Well, it's because there wasn't much Amiga news.
You need a
this week.
fanfare for that.
The first thing, there was a couple things that I discovered that aren't really news, but they were new to me. And maybe they'll be new to you, and you, the listener. So, the first one...
Are we selling infomercial mops? What's happened here?
The Chihuahua. It's great. How long has it been since you thought about the Chihuahua?
A long time.
This is a podcast called Bitstream. And this guy talks about his memories of various computers. And episode 2, which just came out on May 3rd, is memories of the Commodore Amiga. Now, at first I was like, oh, that seems lame, because everybody talks about their memories of the Commodore Amiga.
So you buried this guy instantly.
But I listened to it, and it was actually really cool, because he talks a lot about the music in different demos and different games and stuff, and then he plays the tracks. And it's kind of cool. It's like listening to a radio station with a DJ.
Yeah.
And he's like, this track right here, he tells you the story and stuff. And I got into it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Euro dance trash that I'm not really into, but the stories were neat. And so
what's your problem with Euro dance music?
I highly recommend. This is bitstream.uk is this guy's website.
Sure.
Give it a listen. It's a cool podcast, and the guy's got a real good voice.
And you had to know the guy's name.
No idea.
The guy, so it's just this guy.
I think his name might be Bitstream.
Really?
Yeah.
I would.
Legally changed, of course.
Pretty good.
Our next bit of news is there is a boxed version, Aaron. This game has existed for a while, and we have not really talked about it before. I think this game might have originated before we started doing the show, or it slipped under the radar, because I don't remember talking about Pong 4K.
No.
Do you know anything about Pong 4K?
I don't recall it, no.
Well, this is...
intriguing name.
Yeah, it actually looks really good. This is a CD32 game, and it's like a,
Holy God, that looks good.
Many different variations of Pong. This actually looks like it's being played on a Speedball 2 course almost. But anyway, there is a boxed version now available. So if you are one of those guys that likes to get your Amiga on the shelf, get your games all lined up and looking pretty, check this out. Thanks to our pal Neil over at Indie Retro News. Looks like, let's see if we've got a price on this. I want to say when I checked this out, it wasn't €9. So this thing is less than $10 US. Of course, it is $7 Euro shipping, but I mean $20 for a boxed Amiga game in this day and age, and one that looks like it's pretty good. I'd go for it.
Up to 4 players. Mm-hmm. But the one thing about a Pong game, what do you whenever you play a game like Pong or Warlords, what's the one almost definite thing you've got to have in your hot little hand?
Paddle.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's going to be that's what I wonder about, because it's those analog controls. You need that sort of. And listen, the people don't talk much about the 2600 anymore, but it had top shelf paddles.
Absolutely.
And that's why games like Warlord and Breakout and stuff age great, because that stuff is, even on most MAME cabinets, for example, very few people have a paddle or a spinner on there that you can use.
Yeah.
And really, there's a difference between a good paddle and a spinner.
Right.
A spinner, you can rub that sucker up.
That's
or
for
a paddle.
Tempest, yeah.
Paddle, you want
the fine
That's
control.
right. Maybe but I mean, this looks tremendous. I gotta say, I don't think I've ever seen it before, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. In fact, somebody in the chat just mentioned, I've never tried hooking a paddle to the Amiga.
Me neither.
I don't know what happened. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
You can check it out.
I'll do it on my mini Amigas that I have down here at Amiga Studios. Next up, Retro Ready 1. I know that you complain all the time about the poor service that you've accrued through the various Amiga buying establishments that you've tried throughout the years.
I complained one time.
This is a place that offers very cool looking things that I've never seen before from the Amiga. Instead of linking to their store page, I linked to the EAB site because it shows things. It shows the stuff I want to see. There is a wireless IDE solution for the Amiga 600 and the 1200, which is really cool. I think that your IDE
that's
adapter,
a cableless IDE solution.
That's what I'm talking about. Sorry,
I'll tell you. Do you know what that does? I can explain what that is. I have seen this. This is a little gimmick that hooks into the IDE port on the 1200. And what it does is it allows you to have the card mounted on the side of the Amiga, so you can actually exchange it whenever you want.
Right. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
This is another thing that I thought was cool. This is a side-loading PCMCIA card slot. You can actually put this on the side of your Amiga. I'm going to scroll down. See right there? And it looks cool. It looks stock. It doesn't look hideous like some attempts to use a hacksaw on the side of your case to drill out a good hole or something.
I'm going to ignore you. Here's the thing about this that I like. I have a PC MCIA slot on the 1200, as you know. And you've got that gimmick sticking way out to the side, right? This, at least, you've got, because I always worry about that. Plus, this takes the wear and tear off that slot.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to mangle said slot, So there you go.
Are there a lot of PCMCIA solutions out there for the Amiga? I mean, can you take like a PC Ethernet PCMCIA card and put it in there?
Yes, you can. Now, I've even got a wireless card for the 1200. I really need to try to put it together sometime. It was a leftover from my old computer warehouse days. Ironically, I just happened to have it sitting around. They're mostly what those things were used for back in the day were like hard cards or extra memory. Nowadays people use them for like compact flash adapters, which is what I've got, and they work fine.
So what's the advantage of using like a PCMCIA to compact flash versus getting one of those IDE to compact flash adapters?
They're effectively
the same thing.
I don't know if there's a speed. There may be a speed. I'm sure the IDE is faster. I can't sit here and give you hard numbers. The PCMCIA slot concept was always sort of goofy. That's one of those advancements in Amiga that was, they were catching up with laptops and stuff at the time. But really, when was the last time you even heard, if you weren't in the Amiga land, just think about PCMCIA or PCMCIA 2s. Those things have been gone for decades.
For a long time,
And so anything you get on them now is going to be old.
And he's got various other memory expansions and things. And so, anyway, if you're looking for to order from someplace, I think these guys are based in England, but I'm not sure that was the default currency when I went on here. This is RetroReady.1.
That looks like a little that's a 1200 8 meg expansion of the belly slot that they're looking at right there. I love it. I think that's good stuff. I like the more the merrier when it comes to buying and selling stuff.
Next up, it's been a while since we've plugged our good friend Lofarius. He's got.
Did you stress low for some reason? Good old Lofarius.
That's
Elvira.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
It's the same thing. So Amiga Rama episode 80. Can you believe our good buddy Keith has been doing this for 80 episodes?
He will say he is on a Cal Ripken-like streak of not missing episodes.
Yeah, he's covering Super Off-Road this week. This is a game that we have not yet covered on the Amiga, but we both love this game. You love this game too, don't you?
Playing this in the arcade with a three-wheel Iron Man Stewart's Off-Road, 3 steering wheels. I've got a buddy here that had one of these, and we played it at his arcade party. I really like this in the arcade. It's funny. The Amiga version is a spitting image in the arcade.
It is. It looks very
I've played
good.
it many times. Yeah, Lofarius is. He's always consistent. Really, his show hasn't changed all that much. It's always been spot on. He goes in, he gives some news, he does the shtick, and he's out. It's a good tight package.
Yeah,
and
much like our show.
He's a good guy too.
Good tight package.
Yeah, that's right.
And finally, this is really the news of the week for me. We've played Hunter a couple times. I think
I saw this pop up.
Both times we've played Hunter, I think it's been on Amigathon, and it's usually around like hour 270. So we're both kind of loopy when we get to it. This is a really wacky open world game, and somebody has modded this for some kind of a Doom engine. And the thing is, I've never seen a game that looks like this. Just imagine like a first-person shooter on a 3D plane where there's elevation and stuff like that. It's really, really impressive. You're walking around the hunter world ostensibly, but you're picking up weapons and you're shooting dudes and you're doing all the stuff.
What are they playing this on, Boat?
I want to say that this is
a PC.
I would say that this is probably through an emulator, but I would not. I don't want to comment on that. Let's see if the YouTube description has anything about the system.
Because it looks pretty interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that this is a. But I mean, if you could get this kind of a thing running on a stock Amiga of any
kind,
that
would be unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is running super smooth. But it is cool to see, the hunter world kind of expanded a little bit.
We've played a couple of these kind of open world games, and. Remember, what was the game we played where you're flying the chopper? You flew around and you had to. You remember that?
Yeah.
It sort of reminded me of Hunter, Z-Wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite astounding, especially the years these came out and what you had to work with. It's quite remarkable that they could pull off something like this, with given the the parameters, the hardware they had to work with. And this, I will say, it looks strangely appealing. I don't know why.
There's just something about those old school. It kind of reminds me of that virtual racer, genre or generation of bitmap or polygonal graphics. It's really cool.
This is Virtual Killer.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's my favorite kind of virtual. So, Aaron, that is the end of this week's Amiga news.
Pretty good batch of news.
Yeah, pretty good batch of news. Yeah. The gamble train's pulling away. We'll see you next week. Let's talk about this week's game, Aaron. Future Wars. Should I start singing the Smiths again?
No,
I know you love.
I don't think. No, I would not recommend doing that. So, let's discuss Future Wars.
Okay.
In the as it's known, Future Wars: Adventures in Time.
Yeah.
Now, this game has several different names. All right, I'm going to go through these things here. So, in Europe, Future Wars is subtitled as Time Travelers. In America, it was subtitled as Adventures in Time. And in France, it was known as Time Travelers: The Menace. Ooh, I like that one too.
It's like that movie Don't Be a Menace.
No, it's not like that at all. So this came out in '89. That's very impressive, eh? And released on 2 discs. This is one I had this back in the day. And this was developed by Delphine Software. Now, listen to this who's who of good stuff that they've put out, or that we've at least had found some merit in, right? They did Another World, all right? They did Flashback. They did Cruise for a Corpse.
Yeah.
And they did the James Bond / Operation Stealth game.
That is quite a pedigree.
Yeah,
except for that James Bond game.
And Operation Stealth's pretty good. And Cruise for a Corpse had its charm.
Oh yeah, and it was very unique.
I think about that game quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it was in fact, there's some similarities, not in actual gameplay, but there are things that remind me of that game in this game.
Really?
Which I'll get to. This was coded by Paul Cuisset, Cuisset, You want to give it a whirl?
Nope.
No. Well, we're going to go with Cuisset. He is the same fellow that worked on a lot of Cruise for a Corpse and Flashback and James Bond. He also worked on a game called Bio Challenge. And if you played this game long enough, you'll actually see Bio Challenge mentioned in the game.
Really?
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of neat. It's a little callback to one of his previous games. And this ran on the original OCS. I know the one I was, it ran perfectly fine for me, didn't have any trouble. I ran it emulated too. And I had to emulate it to save state, which I'll get to that in a minute. This came out with more stuff than I would have ever guessed. Listen to this lineup, Boat. I couldn't believe this when I read it. Atari ST, the NEC PC98, odd.
I already don't know what that is.
The PC, the Sharp X68000, that's a stunner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they also supported Tandy PC Jitter graphics.
Well, you need those Tandy graphics for these kind of colors.
Well, listen, Tandy graphics wouldn't feed the Bulldog on these. This is way out of its league. So, and I looked, and I saw 2 or 3 different types of box art as well. So I don't know, just different areas got different box art for whatever reason. So this is sort of your classic point and click adventure game, and in this game, you play an unnamed fellow who's simply known as the hero. All right, and he is for all intents and purposes, the hero is a window washer.
Yes.
All right. This game starts out with a really nice cut scene or whatever of some people walking in the deep woods, being accosted by this UFO. Awesome.
It's a very Close Encounters inspired UFO.
Except in Close Encounters, they weren't bacon suckers.
Right.
With lasers.
It's like a combination of Independence Day and Close Encounters.
It's like if the close. Yes, that's perfectly accurate. So you starts off, you're like, okay, this is going to be some sharp action here, and then once you see this cutscene, the title flashes up.
Yeah,
and then
late title.
Then you get to the opening bit, and the opening bit is an exchange between this window watcher and his boss, who's yelling at him to get busy. And the opening, you're in for a visual treat on the opening screen where you have this reflective building that he's working on, and you can see the city behind that's reflected off the way. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's that brownish evening is starting to come down, and it's just, this is an absolute lovely scene in the boat.
Yeah.
And there's the dialogue. It's a red dialogue. It's not. It doesn't talk. There's no.
1989 on 2 discs.
Which I wonder if any of the other ones actually had any sort of audio.
They're talking about in the chat right now. They say no.
Yeah, I see that. I saw that Ricky Derosha says here a TV version was playing. I didn't see that, and that would have probably been the angle they would have taken. It was, again, do these games, is adding dialogue to them a good thing? We've debated this.
You're not gonna see fully voiced games this early, no matter if it's on the CD-TV or not.
But they could have added it. There's plenty of room on the CD-TV to have added dialogue.
I think so.
Yeah, I think they would. Anywho. So you're the window washer, and you begin this quest, and you really, the funny thing about this game is you just sort of stumble into you're not even, it's not like your guy went out to save the world. You're just some schlup who's screwing around, basically, right? This is a game that was meant to be the first of a series of games.
Hence the subtitle, probably.
Right, and it never came to fruition, despite the fact that this game was pretty popular. And I hear it talked about quite a bit. Now, we could sit here and tell you. I'll give you a brief synopsis of the plot. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. In fact, I purposely didn't watch the ending so I could go back, because I'm not quite through it, through the whole game. I've needed a lot of help to get to where I am. Basically, your hero stumbles into effectively what is a time machine, and basically through his trials uncovers this scenario where aliens have went back in time. There's a war going on with the future ancestors, and whatever, the future version of Earthlings, and they're fighting these people. And the Crowons, Crughon, Crowons. That sound right to you? Crowgon.
Yeah, I think your first one's probably right.
Yeah, Crowons. They're in the future. We're at war with these Crowons, and they're trying to win. And so what they've done is went back in time, and they've planted these incredibly long fused time bombs. And you're going back and trying to stop these things from going off and blowing up these. Certain things that are protecting the Earth from the total destruction.
Right.
And trust me, it's a pretty. I read the whole plot, and I was like, man, this is a real freaking. This is a game where you read everything. You got to, because it's pretty deep. This is not a light subtext. No. This is a hard plot right here. So, you start out as, like I said, you're the window washer. You stumble through time, and you find yourself in a swamp. And it's like medieval times, but through all these elements, the point and click is there, and that is where we should start talking about the interface. So, Bo, what did you think about? I'm sure you like the graphics. You can talk on that, but what did you think about the package of this game? What did you think about the interface that you use in this? Because you play a ton of these.
So, when you play enough point and clicks, you kind of develop your favorites. And I will say that this is a unique take on the interface. It utilizes the right mouse button to open a menu, which gives you your different options. And this is not the SCUM engine. It's not like Maniac Mansion where you have like 400 different commands of things you can do. They keep it simple, which I like. I actually, I think that everything about the interface is great, except for one thing. What they should have done is whenever you want to examine something or take something, they should have programmed in a way for you to just walk to whatever you're going to automatically. because without a doubt, you're going to want to pick up something. It'll say, come a little closer. You'll get closer, and then your body will be on top of the item, and you cannot select it.
Yes. If I may. This was, I agree with 100% with what you're saying. This interface, I mean, it is basic. Did I find this interface as comfortable or as easy to use as some of the previous games we've covered? No. I did not. Flight of the Amazon Queen, for example, I thought had a much better...
That's a later game.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know the dates. I'm just saying I thought the interface was better.
Sure.
This one's okay, like you said.
Well, the advantage, of course, is that you can draw full screen environments when a game like this. Flight of the Amazon Queen, you're only getting 3/4 of the screen.
You're right. However, a lot of the screens in this, often you will be on a screen that's small. Inexplicably small.
I think that was an artistic decision.
To simulate a room?
Yeah, and I like it. A lot of people have problems with this. I was reading some other reviews, but I think it's cool that it goes back and forth. You'll have some full screen affairs where you'll see like a big, landscape or whatever, and then whenever you go into a room, it'll just show you the room.
It is. That's what I thought too. But it's still. I thought it was strange. I mean, I get it. I get what they were doing. But
is it really so strange?
Yeah, it is. Well, you've got the full. So basically, are we in a void because the whole rest of the screen is black? Do something with it. You don't have an interface up there, so you've got plenty of room to. You could make a big detailed room. You can still make it look small, but you could fill up the screen. That's my opinion. So anyway, getting back to the interface. It's perfectly competent. It's very simple to use. Right click, you just got to examine and use. I think David could have probably gotten away with getting rid of a command and compressing two commands into one.
Oh, sure.
thing.
And you saw that in later adventure games.
Right. Because I think there's a little bit. I mean, like you said, it's not like Maniac Mansion where there's a big, huge grid of things. But just like you mentioned, the get a little closer was the bane of my existence. You couldn't get close enough to this stuff. Now, there's a reason that they did that. And the reason is, often in this game, there are little animations that coincide with your efforts. So, for example, there's a bit where you're using a lance to poke something out of a tree. Right? Getting to the exact spot where you want that to happen is difficult. And it's because to get to the exact spot you want so they can trigger the animation that goes along with that event.
Right.
What you said is perfect. If you had said, here, examine this, and they had moved you in the proper position, problem. So that in itself would have repaired a lot of the aggravation from this game. Now, I had a couple other gripes with it, if I may. And listen, I'm just going to say what it is. This is a pixel hunt extraordinaire, and I mean literally a pixel hunt. That little thing gets thrown around, but this game requires you to find a pixel a couple times.
Not just a couple.
Yeah, I mean,
many
I'm just saying I didn't go through the whole. I couldn't get far enough to get to the whole game, but just from the third or whatever I played, there were a bunch of times where I had to go and literally hover around like a goof trying to find these things. I mean, it happens in the very first room.
I almost wanted to have cursor control of like arrow key control of my cursor so I could go pixel by pixel to hunt for stuff.
And what you said is dead on when you said that your guy would get in the way of stuff. That happens when that's the thing. He'll go to where you're pointing, but you don't want him there.
Right. The pathfinding is not great.
It's not, and you'll get caught behind stuff sometimes, and it's a real hassle. Another gripe. We'll get the gripes out of the way first. This is one of those games that does something that I find almost inexcusable, and that is mixing my point and click with some time-based stuff or some kind of arcadey stuff that requires me to do stuff that's not point and click. I don't like
this. Is the problem with the Elvira games, and all those games do this sort of thing too, where you're it's the same. You have to make decisions based on a timing basis, and that's always a huge drag, and it sucks.
There's a scene in this where you have to type. You go into a room. It's early. You go into a room and you type in a code into this keypad. And you have to do this before you get smashed.
And you can't just like go doop, 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 doop,
No.
doop. You have to right click, pick the correct thing.
First you have to examine it.
Right.
And the whole time the ceiling's coming down. And so you're frantically trying to examine something, and you're trying to operate it, and you're trying to hit the buttons. And this isn't like a 2-digit code. It's like, I think, as I recall, it's like a 5-digit code.
Right.
And you're sitting there trying this. And I I just found someone that had a save game past that and just went to it because I hated it. I couldn't stand that. And I remember this when I was from back in the day. It's the exact same room. There's the usual amounts of nonsensical puzzles. I mean, there's, again, you're just right from Jump Street, the puzzles are goofy. At the very beginning, I'm going to spoil this, your boss, when you try to leave, the boss comes and yells at you to get back to work. So what would you not do in that situation? The one thing I wouldn't do is put a bucket over the door so it would fall on the boss's head.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
The logic is not part of this game. It's basically just put things together until you happen upon the solution.
Now those are my. You got any gripes that we didn't cover?
It's. I don't have a problem with pixel hunting. What I have a problem with is like proximity pixel hunting too, because like later on in the game, I was watching a playthrough, and obviously this is like Ironclaw doing this. He's no rookie when it comes to doing these playthroughs. There's a scene where you go far into the future and you're in this wasteland and you've got to search this rubble. If you're not close enough to the rubble, you can still search it, you can examine it, but until you get close enough to examine it, you won't find anything. And so it's like, if you want to make a pixel hunting game, that's okay, but don't make me like be in certain proximity to an item before you can even discover it.
You just remind me of something else. This game is real strict on what's on the screen. And you can get screwed if you're not paying attention. I'll give you an example. At the beginning of the game, I had played this, keep this in mind, but I'd lost it all. There's a scene where you have to find a number to type in that code. So you have to explore this office, and there's like a cabinet there. You click on the cabinet, it's locked, and you try to use the key doesn't work. Okay, you move on. Well, it turns out that the cabinet's split into like 3 sections, and sections 1 and 3 don't work with the key, but 2 does.
Yeah.
And so you've got to put your mouse cursor on the exact right part of the cabinet. Now, in most games, the whole cabinet is one solid thing that's going to unlock, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And having that clue is pivotal.
Yeah, and if you don't write it down, guess what? You're screwed.
You're boned. And see, look, Ricky knows it. Something else, if you get further into the game and you don't have the things you need that you picked up, or you're boned. Like you can't win.
Right.
There's a scene where you come across a big group of insects, right? If you didn't pick up the insecticide,
like 400 years ago,
you're screwed.
Yep.
You're screwed.
And this is the same thing that they got Sierra, or back in the day with the King's Quest games, it was the same sort of deal. And it's the thing that made LucasArts so successful is they realized people don't like that.
No.
People don't, they want to be rewarded and challenged, but not screwed.
Now, you are correct when you said this is earlier than some of the other games we talked about. Because, I mean, I feel like we should sort of grade this interface on a curve, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, you play way more of these than I do, and I'm guessing that at this era, this was pretty much standard fare. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the best of those early games. I mean, I can't think of any better King's Quest, Sierra or LucasArts game in terms of, like, the scope. And, obviously the humor isn't there from, like, Maniac Mansion or something like that.
There are some funny bits in it.
Yeah. But, like, the music, I love the music in this game. It was great.
Yeah, the music tends to trigger in certain screens.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
This is a 2-disc game. So many games that we play have no music at all except for the title screen.
Yeah.
And so, I thought, the graphics are beautiful. All the scenes are lovingly drawn.
The graphics are at the tippity top of the food chain in a game of this type, I think.
Yeah.
You've got, the opening section on the building's awesome. The forests are lush and beautiful. The medieval village is nice. There's a bit where you're in this sort of like pillared, I don't know if it's a church or it's a monastery. Beautiful. It goes off in the distance. The hero has some personality, although not a ton.
He's a silent protagonist.
Yeah, he's not like, say, the Monkey Island guy or the wizard guy that we played. This guy's much more low-key, but he still has his moments. He'll say something now and again. The story and the graphics carry this game.
Yeah.
And so that makes it a tough game to get a grip on in terms of my thoughts on it, because despite how annoyed I got by it, there was the story kept me going and the graphics kept me going. I mean, it's another game you're not going to get through it quick, your guy doesn't run. There's no jumping across the screen to leave, like we've talked about, which I think was obviously developed later on in the game.
Right.
Do you remember when that sort of stuff started really coming out? Is there like a pivotal game in point and click that like the things changed a lot?
Monkey Island really changed a lot of stuff. Yeah.
You think that's the one that did that sort of stuff? Now, so how would you put in comparison? How would you rate this on with Monkey Island? Not necessarily in the interface, but in terms of the overall.
Well, they're different. They're trying to tell different stories.
Yeah.
Monkey Island is deliberately goofy. Everything it does is goofy, and humor appeals to me. So I'm more inclined to like Monkey Island. But I think that this is a different. Obviously, the characters on this game, the sprites are drawn much more small, so you can fit a lot more detail onto the screen. I think that the games are both equally beautiful. They're just drawn in different ways.
Yeah. This game, it really said the graphics in this are tippity top shelf. Now, do you recall how far you got in this? I mean, how did you do puzzle wise? I mean, obviously the puzzles are a little goofy. Did you fare pretty well given your track record?
Here's the thing. I wanted to see all of this game.
Yeah.
And so I played this for a while until I just got frustrated. And
do you remember what part derailed you?
Oh, it was early on. It was like when I got past the part that you did. I was able to enter the code, but I couldn't put that red flag into the hole. I didn't think to do that.
So you had to cheat before you even get to the code.
At that point, I was like, if I'm going to cheat once, I might as well cheat forever.
Yeah.
And so I just watched. But here's the thing, man. I guarantee you, I had more fun watching a playthrough of this as if I would have played it. Because, I mean, just watching it, looking at you solve the puzzles and stuff, I don't know. I feel like all the frustration was removed and I could just enjoy the story, because the story really is good and all the settings are cool and the puzzles are neat. I mean, a lot of the puzzles are kind of nonsensical, but when you watch them being solved, you're like, okay, that makes sense. So.
Well, the frustration wasn't removed for me. As I lumbered through this thing, I spent hours. I had plenty of time to spend with this game this week. Really did. And as I've mentioned many times, this game is not necessarily my bag, but I had played it, and the plot appealed to me, so I had plenty of time to spend with it. And with the exception of the code room where I had to skip past it because I could not get that. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I couldn't get the code to work before getting smashed. But I ended up. I went back to the past, and I got to the point where what you end up having to do is you have to set up in this tree for a while until this guy comes around and you steal his clothes, right?
I'm sure I would have gotten past.
And that's what I said.
There.
Okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, and so I had to go and cheat, which I hate to do on these because I always feel like a jerk, but I did because I've got a limited timetable.
I never feel like a jerk. Well, I mean, I always feel like a jerk just in general. But
and then of course you get your clothes. You actually change clothes, and just in the first year I went to, I changed from I put on civvies, and then I put on a monk robe at one point. I did that, and I managed to. Where was it? It was somewhere I know what it was. There was a guy that wanted me to fetch a drink for him. That's as far as I got. I couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing right there. And so I gave up and went and watched a playthrough. And of course, I saw what I did wrong. And then I saw the guy, there's a secret door I didn't know about in the cask room or whatever. I was like, holy smokes. I was so far behind. But I had to cheat several times to get past stuff. I got past I got everything up to the point where I was at the lake without cheating, and then I had to cheat. But so I feel vindicated doing it because I would never have figured it out.
Yeah.
Anytime you have to sit and wait in one of these games, that's tough.
Yeah.
Because I'm always trying to be proactive. Mm-hmm. I will say this isn't a game where you got to pick up like a zillion tons of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that
they do good. The inventory is managed well.
But the puzzles are just. I wish they had more sense to them. I think that's why I like Cruise to the Corpse a lot. It's because there really wasn't any puzzle solved. It was more clue.
Yeah, it was more like a mystery story.
It was more logical to me than just go get the lance to poke the thing out of the tree.
Right.
I mean, what is that? And and again, on top of everything else, the frustration of doing it when you have to go to the exact right point, like we said with the pixels. If you miss that little flag, you're not going anywhere. No. If you miss that key, you're not going anywhere. There's a key under the rug in the first room. Did you get that? You have to have that.
You got to have that to unlock the door.
Right.
Yeah.
You're boned. I mean, those things are easy to miss. The bug spray. I mean, that would be easy to miss. You know?
Right.
So, I would say this game, my feelings on it, mixed bag.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing yours are about the same.
So, what did the reviews have to say about this one, Aaron?
They were okay. For the most part, it did get reviewed a ton. The people over at Lemon were very impressed with it. Gave it an 8.26, so a very high score. Amiga actually gave it 82, and then they revised that 3 years later to an 85, which is unusual.
I've never seen them revise it up before.
Amiga Computer gave it a 93. Now, Amiga Format, 57%. They weren't impressed. Amiga, and then they the funny thing is their original review in 90, 84%. Then they revised it down in 93 to 57. That's a precipitous drop. For that game. And Amiga Power, 69%. So overall, the one gave an 88. So pretty good reviews. You're in that B range, I would say, which B. I mean, at the time, yeah, maybe. it's so beautiful. You can look, you can look past some of the shortcomings.
Our Discord reviews kind of mirror that.
We got a ton of those.
Yeah. Chris Fold says visually impressive, and from the YouTube videos, a great story. But it's one of those annoying games where you have to mouse, hover, and click on every pixel to find things for which I don't have the patience. 5 out of 10. Cameron Armstrong says, beautiful world and entertaining story. Unfortunately, these are let down by unintuitive puzzles and items only 1 pixel in size to locate. I'm talking about you, little red flag on the floor. Also let down by the fact that if you don't pick up a key item early on in the game, you will get stuck later. With a walkthrough handy, this is a gem that will keep you entertained for hours. 7 out of 10. Graham Vebke says, a great story potential and looks nice, but the gameplay ruins its chance at greatness. At times I thought my mouse was acting up, but I just missed that 1 in 80,000 chance of clicking the right pixel.
Yes. Unforgiving
too if you missed something earlier without multiple save games. Give up and play Freddy Farkas Frontier Pharmacist instead. Pixels at Dawn says, I haven't picked up and played a new point and click for a while, but this was a great surprise to me. Really enjoyed my time with this game, played a few hours, and fully intend to come back and complete it. The only issues I had were some dodgy pathfinding and puzzles that relied on keeping a strict path, and a couple of puzzles that I wouldn't trigger just because I wasn't standing in exactly the right place. 8 out of 10. And finally, Lobsterminator. He says, did not get too far back in the day, but finished this with the help of a walkthrough some years back. I don't agree with most of the game design choices, but the beautiful art by Eric Chahi and the story still make this a classic. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I will say Chahi did a great job. It's funny. I was wondering how you pronounce that, so I'm glad you jumped in there before I did. He did the graphics on Another World and Heart of the Alien, which was the sequel that we never. I think that ended up getting released on the Sega CD. Yeah, and then eventually the Amiga. I think just last year someone ported it over.
Whenever you hear Another World, do you automatically think about that guy with the flip up sunglasses?
No.
And Theo.
I've pulled that out of my mind. No, I think of
the Delphine classic.
Out of This World. That's right. That's actually this. Let me tell you something, Boat. You're not gonna get this one cheap.
Really?
Off the old eBay. Yeah, I was surprised. I saw one of these going for $124 in the U.S. And if you're in Germany, $393. This is U.S. bucks, or best offer. And then, if you're quick on the draw, I saw one of these had sold recently for $20, and one in Denmark sold for $50. So, but they're still not super cheap. And there weren't that many out there. I thought there'd be a lot more than there was. Awesome. I like one of the boxes. Really has awesome artwork on it. The other one's not so good. But it's that would be kind of fun to pick one up. But that's a lot of my price range for old cheap.
Me too. So Aaron, last week our supporter song again. We have a new support page. We have opened up PayPal subscriptions. If you'd rather go that route rather than Patreon, you can find both links over at everythingamiga.com/support. And we want to thank the Duncan Styles for setting up that page.
Johnny on the spot every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And our supporter song last week, we had a couple correct entries. It was She's Electric by Oasis.
Is that what that was?
Yes, yes. Now, did you spend a lot of time with that Oasis album? What's the Story, Morning Glory?
It's a good album. I did. Back at Lexmark, we listened to it quite a bit.
That really was released in my formative years when I was about 15.
That really had an effect on you?
Oh, yeah. In fact, when we took that trip to Disney World with the band, that was the only CD. I forgot my CDs. That was the only CD I brought. So I listened to it constantly for about 17 hours.
Oh, my God. That's too much.
Want to welcome some new supporters for the show.
All right, man.
We got 2 new Amigos fans. Tommy Sarila It looks like a wrestling name. Look at that, Tommy Cerilla.
Tommy Cerilla.
Right.
I like it.
And of course, writer of the Divine Comedy, Dante.
Glad to see he's on board.
Yes, he's on board. And we also like to especially welcome our new Amigos supporters, Free Lunch and Gary Heather.
Free Lunch and Gary Heather. Now, Free Lunch, we've seen him on and off for many times.
He upgraded his support, so we thank you very, very much.
And welcome on board, Gary.
This is going to be your first time in the song, guys, so get ready. This is a good one. So, if you know this week's supporter song challenge, you can send me a message at john@amigospodcast.com, and I will read you as one of the winners.
All right.
Okay? It's sort of a warm-up idea.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
I thought you were passing a stone or something.
Oh, no.
All right, I'm sorry.
Gary, Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator.
I know it.
Craig McClellan, 10-Minute Amiga, Retrocast, Counting, Virtual Sheep, Bernard Quinn, Retroman Cave, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Etter, Robbo, Hera, Howard Nibbs, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Darren Lomax, Colin 419, Barkbit, Roland Burke, Andrew Moxley, Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Dan Ross, Leaf Killon, Alan Kebab, Chicote Level, Lord John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sorgorn, Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Windows 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Folds, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Vepke, Lane Denson, Adam Bradders, B. O'Brien's, Return Vintage, Gary Hooker, C. Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Bossman, Duncan Styles, Alan Kebab, Tapes from the Crib, Josh Nan, Adam Badley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy, Humbert Shah, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warrens, Pixels at Dawn, Kjolbjorn Barman.
Nice. Beautiful. I brought a tear to a glass eye. You got so many names, so you get to start singing operas.
Well, I was thinking, I want to have to. There's only so many American Pies out there, you know. Gonna have to. If you know a song that's over 10 minutes long.
Oh my God! I don't think anyone wants to sit through that. My God. That was very folky there, Bo.
Well, thank you. They call me a folky from Muskogee.
No, they don't call you that. I can't tell you what you call you on the air. I'll tell you later.
All right, Aaron. Next week, I cannot tell you.
I
can't tell you how excited I am about this particular title. I've been waiting almost 5 long years to do a cricket show on this podcast. And finally
happened,
it's come.
Oh.
Next week, we are going to play Battle for the Ashes.
So much like the other shows where I don't know anything about the sport, I've got to spend half the week learning the sport and half the week playing the game.
Well, I tell you what's going to happen. This is going to be another Hurricane Higgins, where we spend countless hours on YouTube
watching documentaries.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Jimmy White, Hurricane Higgins, Jockey Wilson.
I've learned a lot about darts.
I've learned a lot about
snooker.
life. Yeah, life in depressed towns in Britain.
Do you know anything about cricket at all?
Nothing.
I mean, I don't know anything.
I have a cricket ball that someone gave me when I lived in England. I'll put that on the table.
The only crickety thing I know is that Peter Davison, when he was Doctor Who, he wore like a cricket outfit.
This is how little I know about cricket, and this is a true story. I listen to the ESPN Switch Hit Cricket podcast whenever I can't sleep. Like if I wake up and it's in the middle of the night, I put that on and it's two British guys talking about stuff I have no idea, and they talk in a real calm, quiet voice.
Is that where Sticky Wicket came from?
Yes, that's a Sticky Wicket. Yeah.
See, I know something, I guess now.
Actually, I don't know if that's true or not. It might come from croquet.
Then why did you say it did?
Well, I'm affirmation. You want affirmation?
I do know about croquet. When are we going to cover the croquet sport in the?
Ask the game selection committee, man.
Cricket might be like croquet. It looks sort of like croquet and baseball at a kid, right?
That's true. That's true. It's the same sort of downward sweeping motion with the striker.
I've seen plenty of guys get smacked with those bats, and the young ones. That's a favorite weapon. Oh man,
there's not too many wrestlers that use cricket bats.
There should be.
I wonder
if
Giant Haystacks ever pulled one out from.
I went to a show where there's a British guy that was managing this other guy, and he whacked a dude with a cricket bat at the show.
That's what I like to see.
Although I think he was actually Australian, but he pretended to be.
The manager of Spinal Tap carried a cricket bat.
Why?
Just in case. You never know.
It doesn't look like you could just beat someone.
You could wreck somebody with a cricket bat. Yeah.
I need to get one of those.
All right, so we'll be back next week with that. Keep on playing the Amiga. We want to thank you, all of you fine folks in the chat. We record the show live every Friday night. We're back on schedule, and it shows from our turnout. Gary Hucker, Graham Vebke, Lobs, Germinator X, Pixels at Dawn, Edvin Helland, Pishbot, Tragard 1982, Henrik Anderson. Thank you guys. Retro Tech and Toys was here. Anybody that is like silently lurking in the chat. Will Williams is here. So thank you guys so much for showing up. It's always a party in the chat. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate you guys. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
That's why we're here, man.
You know, Aaron, before we go, episode 200 is right around the corner.
Is it?
This is episode 198.
Oh, so crap. Yes.
So
wow, we've really thank God we've got the machinations. Everything's been rolling in the background. We haven't got nothing.
Right. So we're gonna get started planning this, but I will tell you that luckily Aaron and I are both off on that Friday.
No, I'm off on Monday.
Oh, I just asked you if you were off on Friday.
Memorial Day weekend doesn't start on Friday.
I literally asked you, are you off the Friday of Memorial Day weekend?
Me if I was off Memorial Day.
Would you like me to pull out the Discord?
No.
Well, I will.
We don't have time for this banter.
So
he was wrong.
Aaron is not off on Memorial Day, but I am. So we're gonna have to start the recording.
I'll still be around.
Okay, so we'll still record the show. It'll be at a normal time. We won't be able to start early, but we're gonna have call-ins. We're gonna be talking about memories of the show. If you've got memories of, or not really memories, but like if you want to write in about what the show means to you or any kind of sappy thing like that, we're all about the sap on episode 200.
Or any of the many times I've screwed something up.
We're gonna drill into the tree and let the sap flow.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
you're gonna be blowing your nose with a pancake as we say sappy?
That's all I do. So keep your eye out for more news on that coming out, especially if you're on our Discord channel.
After we plan it.
Yeah. So, as always, thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, adios.